You are now checking out
The Win Podcast,
where the everyday people
are the celebrities.
So let's get to know them.
I am the son of a Latina of Dominican parents. I am a father. I'm a grandfather. If you want me to get extremely specific, because I've in the past year or two, I've been a lot more open because I've always been a very private person. But I am the father of 7, 4 boys, 3 girls, and the
Nice.
grandfather of 2. And the grandfather of 2. And I like to write. You know, I've been a business owner for the last 20 something years. But my passion is writing. I'm a writer.
So when did
You know?
that start for you? The writing journey, when you was able to explore that and like release certain things, and then take us down the process of now once you wrote something, the dream or the goal of now performing it and putting it out there and not being not saying being afraid, but like facing that next step.
Oh, the motherfucker was afraid. I was afraid. You know how that is.
Yeah.
Rick. Honestly, I didn't know I wanted to be a writer. I didn't know I was going to be a writer. My mom put me in. She started me in the world of art when I was 7 years old. So I started to play the piano. So music was my thing for a long time. I'm a classically trained pianist. When I got to be a teenager, the hopeless romantic that I am, I started writing poetry, and that's when my writing started. But I didn't know, I didn't even know being a writer was a thing, right? Like I knew being a pianist, being a musician was a thing, but I knew being a painter was a thing. But and I've always been big into movies. Always was huge into movies. My father was big. We went to the movies every week. And my love for the dialogue, screen, and just a form of the actors also began around the same time as the piano. But I didn't know writing was a thing. I always felt like, who does this? Like, like who comes up with this stuff, right? But as a kid, you don't think past that, right? When I got into college, I started I was traveling a lot, and I would go to like Atlanta or Chicago, or I'd just be like in different places. And like the Love Jones era kind of hit. I said I'm a grandfather, so I'm a little older than I look. So I was like in those clubs when that Love Jones shit kind of popped off.
That's where the 7 Babies started, or that was
well, actually, I had my oldest son in high school. I was 16.
Oh.
Yeah, and I raised them by myself. A parent comes to him. But yeah, I mean, the right. And it wasn't until later on in life that I've been married twice, and with my first wife, ex-wife, we were going through some shit, and I just didn't know how to. I had nobody to talk to. I was living in New York. I'm originally from Jersey, but we were living she's from New York. I was living in New York with her at the time. We were living in New York at the time, and we had just had our twin girls, and I had nobody to talk to. I was alone in New York. And I wanted to make sense of what was going on in our relationship, why I wasn't understood, and where I was misunderstanding her. And I wrote this story, right? Unbeknownst to me, Rick, right? Like you and I are playwrights. Like we know now what structure is. We know how ideas formulate. But like I wasn't there yet, right? I was just a guy, a married guy, frustrated in a kitchen, and I wrote like this 13-page argument. Um, and after a couple of days after I wrote, I kept reading. I was like, wow. And I had wrote in a format of a dialogue, like a play format, unbeknownst to me. Like I had never taken a writer's course.
So you didn't,
take any classes or anything?
I didn't take any classes. I've never taken a writing course, not online, not a writing workshop. I've never taken an acting course, nothing. So just something I figured like this is what it should look like, right? Now, mind you, this is like 13 years ago. It wasn't like 14 years ago. It wasn't like, almost 15. No, 14 years ago. So it wasn't like Google was a thing or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like the internet was popping like it is now. And although 14 years doesn't sound like a long time, it is. Mm-hmm. As far as the internet is concerned, the internet to us is relatively, something transformative. Exactly. And I wrote this argument and I kept going back to it. And so I had a friend of mine that worked for Star Ledger here in New Jersey, the newspaper, which is like our version of the New York Times, the New York Post. And a friend of mine that worked for MTV. And I emailed it to both of them. I was like, what do you think about this? I don't even know what I have here. And they both were like, dude, like, where's the rest of the story? Like, we need this story. Like, who are these two people? How did they get to this argument? And I had never thought about that. So my boy that worked for the Star Ledger, he was a writer, and he was also a professor at Columbia. And he said, dude, like, we need the backstory. He goes, I need the backstory he goes, is this a play or is this a movie? And I love theater. And I said, I don't know. It was an argument. He was like, well, it sounds like if anything, you have a theater piece here. He goes, but I would love to see how these two people got here. And that sparked my interest in wanting to be a writer. And that's when I started to research what a writer is and what the journey would look for me. And so I said, I'll start with this piece, right? And that piece ended up becoming the first play I ever wrote, and which is oddly enough the last play that I put up, which is called She Hates Coffee.
Nice.
And so that 14-page argument at that time, now, is actually the last scene of the show. So I had wrote the ending of my show first. And so that's where my journey as a writer began, because then that's when all of those thoughts came, like, okay, well, who is this guy? That's where character development came in for me. Like, who is this guy? Who is this girl? What does he do? Who are his friends? Who are his parents? What are his struggles? And I did that, and before you know it, 2 people turned into an 11-person cast, and and that's how I started. Then the reality of the industry hit me. Somebody put me in contact with Veronica Caicedo. Okay. That's how I met Veronica. Somebody said to her, look, I know this guy in Jersey, he wrote this play, and I think you guys should meet. And Rick, when I tell you this fucking script, my brother, at that time, right? Like, I'm novice. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. This fucking script was like 180 pages.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I've been there, bro. I mean, I'm still there sometimes when you're first starting something. That shit is mad. You leave everything out. You clean everything out the basement.
Take everything
I wrote a fucking novel, B.
Hey.
Like,
The worst is when you do a read through and you feel bad for the person like afterwards. Because when you write it, you're like, oh man, this is good. I got everything on my chest. But then you have that person read it with you, and you feel their pain afterwards, and they're like, "Yeah, it was good. You could cut this."
Right. Listen. I've learned so, and thank God, like I've done so much now that when I do a read, bro, we don't go through that. Like I done chopped it down so much. Like by the time I get to the read, it's so nearly like done. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
You
my
have to
first
start from
reading,
somewhere. Yeah.
you gotta
You
start.
don't know.
But I remember meeting Veronica Rick, and she looked at this fucking Bible. She was like, "Oh my God!" Like I saw her face, like she couldn't even hide it. I'm sitting across from her, and I was like, "Yo," but she called me a week later. She said, no, actually, she said she was going to call me in a week, right? So it was like Tuesday. So the next Tuesday came, and I'm like, standing by my cell phone. I don't get a call. She calls me Wednesday morning, and she goes, okay, well, let me get the beds out of the way first. This shit is long, and it's drawn out. And you repeat yourself so much, like she was just like telling me all the shit that was fucked up about it, and I was like, fuck, like I don't know what I was thinking that I could even do this shit, right? And then she stopped and she said, "But God damn it, you got a story here." She goes, "You got a story. Your writing is sexy as hell." She goes, "I was intrigued." She goes, "And I got through it telling myself he doesn't know what he's doing." You know, like basically she understood that I didn't know what I was doing. And you know, I sent it off to my mentor. He got me to chop it down some, and then we had reading. But then to me, she goes, reality of the hit, right? And then we were looking at budgets to do this thing, and people were like, you know, I'm looking at budgets for like $100,000, $1 million. I'm like, what? Like, what? You know? And like, I know where, you know, I had like all money sitting. I'm not about to put $50,000 into this shit, and I'm still 50 short. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm still 50 short. Like I'm not about to do this. And I was like, yo, I can't do it. I don't have no staying in the game. I don't know anybody in the industry. Nobody's gonna give me money. And you know how nobody gives you, and when you start, nobody gives you money. Nobody even believes in you. My mother
believe in you.
My mother was first. My mother's my biggest friend, but my mother was the first person to shoot me down. I told her, Mom, I was so excited after I went to New York and I found out I was going to do a reading for She's Coffee. And I said, Mom, yo voy a ser un escritor. Emma, yo soy un escritor. I'm a writer. And she goes, hi, mijo. There's no money in that. I was like, fuck. You know, she goes, you got a business. It's doing well. Like, focus on that. But now my mom is like, nah, Hollywood. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
I think
he's a writer.
They have to see you do something for them to believe in you.
I think that's great because, and I want to touch on that you had this business, right? And then I think at that time too, you had daughters, twin daughters, right?
And a son.
Yeah, I had by this time, I was on my fourth kid. With my twin girls made it 4.
So
because I have with my ex-wife, I have 3 daughters, a 17-year-old daughter, well now 17-year-old daughter and twin 13-year-olds, right? So the girls had just been born, and my daughter was like 4.
So where did this motivation come to not look at the odds, right? You know, because kids are blessings, and you have this business, but they're all milking energy and time out of you. Where was this motivation? What made you keep going to like, all right, I'm going to keep writing, or I'm going to try to make this play happen, like one step at a time? Because I think that's very key, because there's a lot of people that don't even have a lot of those things you have, but they just have one thing in their way and they're ready to like, this is not possible. God, I don't know how I'm going to make it happen.
So much.
Yo, I bet on me all the fucking time. I believe in me all the fucking time. Sometimes it comes off as brash arrogance. You know, sometimes it comes off, I don't give a fuck. Like, if I don't believe in me, who's going to? If I don't have my back, who the fuck is going to?
Exactly.
Right? Like, my father taught me a real valuable lesson when I was younger. Right? He would say, I play piano, and I was upset one year because we were in the recital, when we did the recital, the concert. It was like 20 kids that were going to perform, and I was number 2. Well, I was number 19, right? So basically, the last person to perform was the best motherfucker, right? Was the best person.
Gotcha.
That was the best pianist in the school, in the academy. And I was so upset because I felt like she was, like, I was better than her. And my father was like, okay, maybe you are better than her. Right? It was just his way of talking to me that allowed me to believe that I could own it on me. And he said, okay, well, how many hours do you do? I said, you know her, right? Because she's in your school. And I said, yeah. She goes, how many hours does she practice when she gets home from school? And I said, she practices about 2 hours a day. He goes, okay. How many hours do you practice a day? I said, oh, at least an hour and a half tops. He goes, all right. So she's practicing anywhere between half an hour to an hour more than you. I was like, yeah. So then she deserves to be number 1. She deserves to be last. You crying, and you don't work harder than her. She obviously believes more in herself than you do, because she decides that she's gonna push herself. Now, mind you, we're talking about 12-year-olds. 12. You know what I'm saying? I'm not 18, like I'm 12. He goes, obviously and he says this to me. He goes, obviously she believes more herself than you believe in her, because she works. I said, does she know how many hours you practice a day? I said, yeah. You know, we talk all the time. So she found out you practice an hour. She practices 2. So I started practicing 3 hours a day. And then the next time, that concert was in Cammie Hall, which is an extension of Carnegie, and I was number 20.
Nice.
Right? So my father was like, this had nothing to do with her. You wanted something. So you worked for it. And it didn't matter what the obstacle was. So the obstacles were that now I was coming home from school. I also play baseball, so I had to practice my pitching routines when I got home. And then I had to practice for 3 hours. So sometimes I wouldn't be done with practice, with my piano practice at home till like 7, 8 o'clock at night. So that meant sometimes I didn't get to go to the park. I didn't go hang out. You know what I'm saying? In the summer, it was different, obviously, because you're not in school. But while I was in school, I had to sacrifice some other shit in order to get what I wanted to accomplish. Right? And he would do that with everything. I remember I was pitching, and this one kid like rocked me. He hit like 2 home runs off me in one game, and he was like, "Why do you think that is?" And all he did was bring a bucket of 100 baseballs, and he was like, "There's a strike zone. It's up to you." Next time I saw that kid, he ain't hit nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that was his mentality. Like, it don't got nothing to do with who's in front of you. You, like, what is your discipline like? And I think that is the major problem with people. Like, they don't have no discipline, and they don't believe that they can. But I don't know about you, Rick, but anytime I accomplish anything, right, there's this reward about finishing something that you start that is unexplainable.
Yep.
Right? And then you get to a place where that shit don't matter. Like, you accomplish something and on to the next. my team is always like, yo, you just not gonna go celebrate? Like, nigga, we on to the next shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? We're nowhere to be celebrated. Like, I ain't where I want to be yet. And that's my drive. It's always wanting to better
yourself,
my craft, wanting to better myself. And I got a mission, bro. Like, my mission is 2 parts. I want to expose my art. I want to bring my art to people. I want to connect with the audience. I want to connect with people. I want to be able to touch people in a way that a lot of people can't, right? And number 2, I want to be able to put us, people of color, Latinos, in spaces where we're not in. On stage and behind stage. I want to put us in spaces where they really ain't fucking with us, unless you're a Spanish theater, right? And so my dreams of accomplishing shit for other people, like my dreams of going to Broadway, fuck Broadway. When I can sell out theaters on my own. Tyler Perry didn't go to Broadway, did he?
No, he didn't.
Nope. He did his
own
own
thing.
He did his own
things in Beacon.
And before Lin-Manuel had his success with Hamilton, who's a bigger playwright? Who sold more? You know, a person of color. Who sold more in the theater than fucking Tyler Perry? Nobody.
Yep.
Nobody. He didn't need Broadway. And so my motivation comes from, what is it that you want in life? Then you got to work hard. Like, look at my color. That means automatically I got to work twice as hard to get half the way. But I'm not okay with getting half the fucking way. I don't want to get half the way, you know. I don't want to work twice as hard to get half the fucking way. So if I got to work 10 times as hard to beat the motherfuckers that won't let me into a space and create my own space, then I'll do that. So while the motherfuckers sleep, I'm up. You know, I'll work harder at my businesses to fund my own shit. Shea's coffee ain't cheap. Shea's coffee ain't cheap. That cast ain't cheap. Them big ass theaters ain't cheap. You know, the promotions ain't cheap. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Like, productions ain't cheap.
A lot of people don't see
the behind the
scenes and the work that you have to, you know, just by being in a room by yourself first, writing, that takes its journey. Then on top of that, doing readings. Then on top of that, putting your own money into it. And then, you know, if you have a cast, putting that together. And also you was directing it as well, putting that together. So a lot of people don't see the behind the scenes. They just see the final picture and they love it. And I'm like, oh man, it must have came easy. No, there's a journey to being on stage, and there's a journey to put the shit on stage, and there's a journey to writing the shit. So it's
it's all a struggle. And my cast will tell you, they'll be like, yo, we could hit AR at fucking 4:00 in the morning. That motherfucker answer you. And I'll share something with you that a lot of people don't know. Personally, right after the second run of She Hates Coffee, landed my ass in the hospital. Landed straight hospital. Doctor was like, listen, everything you're doing, you got to stop right here, right now. You got to stop. I had just came off of a divorce. I didn't go get like an apartment, and I literally, like, I left my situation with nothing, with like clothes on my back, a few $100s in my pocket. I left everything and I left. And that was on a Friday. That Sunday, I casted She Hates Coffee. Like I said, I'm gonna put all my money and everything and all my energy into this. I went and, all right, so like nobody, I don't ever talk about this, but so I rented a room in the basement. This is how I bet on me. I rented a room in the basement, like a fucking dungeon, right? I rented a room in a basement. I went from having 4 cars and a $500,000 house to having no car, right? Because I left. The situation was very toxic for me, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So I decided not to buy a car. I just kept working. Then I had to speak to the mothers of my children. They were all on board. I have great relationships with the mothers of my children. We are one beautiful blended family, and they understood my struggle. And I said, I'm going to put all my time and my energy into this shit because it's for us. When I say us, it's for my kids, it's for y'all, it's for us. And I lived like that for like 8 months. And I put She Hate Coffee up. I was doing B's back to back. I was out at events. You know how it is when you promoting I was out all the time. And then, rehearsals, production meetings, we put up these 2 massive productions in 6 months' time, 2 months apart from each other, right? And my body just gave out on me after that February. And the doctor was like, you got to change your eating habits. You got to sleep, because when I told him what I was putting myself through, he was just like, this it's unimaginable. And you're not even a big guy. Like, how do you work this way? One of the things that was important to me was I knew everybody in my team, right? And everybody that Dominican Soul Productions employed, right, was working their ass off for believing in me. So how do I not outwork everybody that's working for me, from my vision, as if it was their own? And so that prompted me to sacrifice more, to work harder, to outwork everybody. Somebody needed me, whether it was related to play, whether it was personal, whether it was whatever it was in my team. And when we do these shows, I employ almost about 50 people, right? So, and the Castellona's 14, right? And then there's all these other people and all these other things that go into it. How do I navigate this shit and be there for my team, be there for everybody? That's how you bet on yourself. You just work. And you fucking work. You do the work, and people told me you're not gonna be able to do this.
I think
will see.
I agree with you with the working hard, but I also feel like you have to, especially now even after you had that scare, you got this message of like you got to work smarter in a sense that it's not taking a toll on you, because from friend to friend, you have this journey that you want to fulfill, but you also have this journey that also can be toxic to yourself for ending that journey short because you want to reach here, but you work. And of course, there's nothing wrong with hard work and all that stuff, but you at a phase where you got to work smarter because you want to reach this end goal to produce as much and employ as much. But at the same time, this drive can also be so toxic in a way that is also dangerous to our health. And I've been there as well, where you can have these things where your body's like, yo, your brain is there like, yeah, but your body's like, you better chill. Because we can't take on so much right now. You have a long journey, but you're going to cut that shit short because, we're human. Our spirit
that was my lesson. That was my lesson. And I learned that, and that's what I learned from that situation. I was like, yo, your drive is dope. But there's none of it without you.
Yeah.
Right? There's none of it. And fuck all of that. These kids need you.
Yeah. That's
you know what I'm saying? Like these kids, and I was going through some shit as well. So I was masking all of that with yo estaba tapando todo eso with the work, right?
Yeah.
But it's crazy, and I know you can understand this. Like when you see a dream that you've had that you thought was impossible start to evolve.
Yeah.
And then you really say to yourself, yo, this shit is possible. But what I took away from that was, yo, the self-care that you have to have has to be you have to be as driven for your self-care as you are for your passion for your writing and your art, right? Because if not, without it, there's nothing.
Yep.
And that was for me, that was a hard pill to swallow, right? Because I had that old school mentality, like, fuck it, work, and you work until you drop dead. And I would tell people that. I muero mañana, nos morimos con cuarto y con, like, you know what I'm saying? But that don't make no damn sense, right? Like, it don't make no sense.
You know, was that? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say something similar to that made me, not only through all my health experiences, but something that clicked for me like that. What you realized was watching this Robin Williams documentary on HBO, and he was a silent person, work, laugh, and he had those moments in his room where he was very quiet. He's that type of person, introverted, but out there, he always wanted to make people laugh, and he carried him. He's buried himself in work, and it wasn't until that he started getting signs of the Parkinson's and how it was taking away his memory, his certain things, that people saw that he went to a very dark place, and they say that that's what made him go over, right? So and to me is also what I saw spiritually from there was like he was having a moment where in his journey where this disease now is making him take a step back to realize all the stuff that he's been running for so many years that he couldn't even realize and face it himself, that it took a disease to like, now you can't laugh and make everybody laugh anymore. When are you going to start taking care of yourself? When are you going to start facing certain things? And it's a tough pill to swallow, just like you said, when you realize those certain things. And sometimes when we get those wake-up calls, we have to like really wake up to those calls, because we may not be blessed to get them more than once or more than twice. One, it might be end up just like it's just done. So I think what the best quote that you said was like, your self-care has to be so so driven, just like as for your passion too, because you can't go on without this body.
You can't, and you can't go on without your mind.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know,
it's only gonna make you better once you have that self-care, because it's gonna add to the creativity and talent that you already have. It's just only gonna add to it.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but can you create when, like for me, I feel like if I'm going through so much, right, it's tougher for me to create something. At times I can create what I'm feeling, but sometimes if I'm doing so many things, I feel like it gets in the way of this process that I'm trying. I need to be at a good slate to like really dish out more stuff. But then if I'm going through certain things, I need that to unleash what I'm trying to express. So it's like a yin and yang, most likely thing. So I was saying, can you relate to something like that, like how you was running away from all these things?
But it started with you like that, because it started with your divorce. That's how you started to learn how to write, right?
I thrive in turmoil.
Nice.
That's what
right. So I had to relearn discipline, right? Because now my life.
Repeat that again, because you was freezing.
Yeah.
I had to relearn discipline. Because, for instance, the last few years have been, right, like personally, just the journey that I've been on, and fatherhood, and just recognizing that I was this toxic dude, and trying to make amends, not only with the people that I hurt, but myself. I had always been in the habit of creating art when I was in turmoil. And then I started to realize that sometimes I would create turmoil so I could create art, right? And that's dangerous, right? Because you can create a situation in your life that possibly could never, like you could hurt people or get hurt, mentally, emotionally, just for no reason, right? And so I had to relearn discipline. Like, you're in a good space in your life, and I had to relearn that that's okay. Like, the art is innate in you, right? Like that, you have all of these experiences already stored. You have them in your mind. You have them in your body. Like, you can pull. Like, I had to learn to pull from this shit instead of creating more bullshit. Like I was doing for so many years of my life, right? And I had to understand that there's so much beauty from everything that I've lived. There's enough beauty in my past for 10 lifetimes, right? And I had to be okay with that, because sometimes we feel like, I think people really get into the notion, like into that it's too good to be true notion. This is too good to be true. And then we self-sabotage a lot of shit. Dude, I got 7 kids and 4 baby mamas. I don't really call them baby mamas, but and I got 4 women that are the mothers of my children. And when I tell you, I could call up any one of these women, and we laugh, we chill, we can talk about the kids. They're there for me. If I need something, they come through. Whatever. I'm cool with their spouses, with their like. And I sat in my living room one time. I was like, "Yo, this is too good to be true." No, motherfucker, enjoy it. You worked hard to get here.
Exactly.
You don't have to create more bullshit, right? You already have all of the pain of those situations that you can pull from if you need to create or to expose or to relate to someone else or to tell a story. You don't need more shit, right? Like, you're in a beautiful space. Like, that is the reward for working on your trauma and working on the trauma that you've caused. And this is the reward, like peace. Peace is something that we have a difficult time fucking with. Like, we have a difficult time dealing with peace because we don't really know what it looks like. We don't ever really, really know what it looks like, because every time we get a snippet of peace, we start to, this is too good to be true. I'm waiting for some shit to happen. That doesn't have to be the case.
Yeah.
Right? And dude, I'm going on 43. I'm so upset that I didn't learn that shit until I was 39. Like, that's a whole life wasted with anguish, with, hurting myself, even worse, hurting other people, even worse, hurting my children, even worse, hurting good women that didn't deserve it. Right? Like, for what?
Have you learned to...
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, have you learned to forgive yourself?
Oh.
Yeah, but that's a daily process. I have to convince myself every day to forgive myself. Because just like when we spoke, I'm still hard on myself. Like, I'm still that guy. I'm really hard on myself.
I think you should start like what you've been, like, start being, just like you have to get comfortable with peace. Start getting comfortable with forgiveness with yourself, because no one's throwing daggers at you. From what I heard, no one's throwing daggers at you anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, the only dagger you're doing is to yourself. Well, you're creating. That's a new play. You're creating something. You're creating turmoil right now.
Somebody's talking about me.
But yeah, you have a rare situation. Like, you have 7 kids, 4. You have 4 women who are the mother of your children. That's a rare. Like, I've never heard a story where they get along with all 4. Like, there's always something going on.
Yeah, they get along with me. They get along with me, and they get along with each other.
Look at that.
And it's not to say that it didn't take work, right? But it did.
Work,
it took time to get to that place. But at the same time, the same mistakes you made are the same lessons you had to learn to reapply to make this well.
I have a question. Do you feel that if you hadn't written what was going on in your relationship, do you feel that if you hadn't taken on writing, you wouldn't have been where you are now?
I wouldn't be alive now. I wouldn't be alive now because I am also someone who's prone to vice, right? Like yo soy vicioso, like which is why it also explains my work ethic, right? But I mean, thank God I've never done drugs. It's just something that never took to me. But you know, that first situation drove me to be a massive alcoholic. You know, like I admitted myself into rehab. You know, after I got out of rehab, I didn't drink for years. You know, I had to learn self-discipline. You know, because I'm that type of that's my type of personality. Excuse me, that's my type of personality. Like when I do something, I go all in. So if I'm feeling like shit, I'm gonna go all in for self-destruction.
Gotcha.
You know, and writing was a way for me to vocalize what pain I was going through because I felt like I was unheard. I felt like I was unseen. I wasn't taking anything away from my part of the damage I was doing in relationships, right? I was just expressing the damage that I was going through in relationships.
But you
because
wasn't
that's the only story that I could tell.
And you wasn't taking responsibility for what you was causing.
Right. So I wanted to tell stories about how men were hurt and were broken because I experienced a lot of pain and a lot of hurt, right? And so I wanted to tell those. I was experiencing when I first wrote shit. I was experiencing like the story is not about my life. It was something completely separate. I've never been through, you know, what goes on in She Hates Coffee, but it was the sentiment that this guy, like he just, you know, he kept being hurt by women. You know, he kept putting himself in a situation where he was getting hurt. You know, better said, in reality, he kept making the wrong choices. And that was me. Like, that's how I felt. And I didn't know any other way. I didn't have anybody to talk to. The only person I had to talk to was a bottle. And that led me somewhere dark, even, you know, really dark. And it, for me, writing saved my life. You know, like I had stopped playing the piano. I gave that up. The piano couldn't save. I was going to ask you how about the piano? No, as a matter of fact, I created a disdain for the piano because the piano brings up a different feeling in me than the writing does, right? So in my writing, I want to give. Right? Like I'm giving you my pain, not so you can hold it, right? Like I'm in my writing, I feel like a conduit. Like I am using this medium to connect with you. Like this is what you're going through. Are you going through this too, bro? Are you going through this too, woman? Like this is what that is, right? But piano was something that for me, piano was something that it feels like people take, right? Because it's you know, when you play the piano, people sit down and they watch you and they expect you to do this for them. Like with writing, you never know what's coming, right? Like you never know what's coming because you never heard the story, right? But if you know this song, you know how it should be played, you know how it sounds, you know how it should sound, and you're waiting for that perfection, right? So instead of me giving, and this is my interpretation, right? Every time I played the piano, they were just sitting there waiting to take from me, right? It's a loveless relationship.
Have you tried playing the piano, but for you, and just playing it not based on like what the world what they gave you, but yourself expressing your musicality through you. Have you ever tried it that way?
Yeah.
Or
How
Yeah,
did
but
you
I
fe-
had that. I had that block.
or did you feel
that's
too
something
too
interesting.
vulnerable playing the piano?
That's true.
No, bro, you like fucking Oprah. You're gonna get all the juice. Um,
Because you no, because you
Because
touched
it's
something very great.
closing.
You
So-
said you
it's like
blocked it
so-
off, but
probably
you
don't
also
wanna let
almost felt like
something.
someone's
So-
taking and taking. So I'm like,
Because
yeah.
you're letting go
So
in writing, but like piano is like
right. So that I loved the piano. That was my first love,
we should go back.
and I was so. I mean, I listen. I got accepted into Manhattan School of Music. I was getting ready to audition for Juilliard. Like I did the work, bro. I was in there playing that fucking piano. And my father growing up, my father's a taker. My father's a taker. Like he had his good moments, but he had his bad moments. My father was a taker. My father would sit after I was done practicing. Right, he wouldn't interfere with me rehearsing. But after I was done practicing, then he would come into the living room and make me play all his favorite shit.
okay,
Right, with one song in particular by Beethoven, and what was funny, what would anger me about that was that I liked Beethoven, but I wasn't a Beethoven fan. I was a Chopin fan. I don't know if you guys know these names or not, but
Yeah.
it's irrelevant. Like I was a huge fan of Chopin and his nocturnes, and I would want to play those. And my father was like, okay, so that's too sad, and he just didn't see the genius in it. But Beethoven's like that's like
it
the
didn't
hip
speak
hop
to you.
song of all
Yeah.
classic. It didn't
Yeah.
speak to me, like
Yeah.
because I knew that it was bullshit, and I knew the history of that particular song, and it was trash. You know what I mean? I was like, I always thought like, oh, Beethoven, you a bitch ass nigga for this. But and he would do that, and then we would have company over, and he would call me, play.
So
You know,
so it
and then
seems like
so then
when you would play in a room full of people, it's like a room full of your dads wanting
That's what
Yeah.
to watch. So
exactly.
and then you lose the taste of it because now you're like, I'm not really playing for me. I feel like I
playing
have
for
to
somebody else.
entertain everyone because you want to see me play the fucking piano, but I want to play the shit that I want to play that I like.
Well, that's why he's
Right.
calling it takers, because you feel
Right.
like
Now
they're
I get
taking
it.
from you and you're not
And so
giving.
he and I don't think he did it purposely, but
Right.
he took something that I loved, right? And how hard is it to get a child to enroll them in something and then they actually like it? Like children, you'll put them in piano, violin, drums, baseball, karate. They don't like none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to do that. 1 week, yeah, that, and the next week, I don't want to do that. I think I want to go swimming. But you started me in something, and I actually loved it, and I excelled in it. And then he took it for himself. And I didn't realize until decades later, about 10 years ago, maybe a little less. Yeah, I was about 35, about 7 years ago, 8 years ago. My aunt, she was going through a horrible cancer thing. And my father came from DR because he was going to give her a bone marrow transplant. And we were at this hospital, and we were in the waiting area in this huge, beautiful hospital in New Jersey. And we're waiting in the lobby. They're going to tell her in to do the procedure for bone marrow transplant. And I see this beautiful Steinway black grand piano. And I hadn't played the piano in a while. And it was, and I'm looking at it, and it's just calling me, forgetting that my dad is there. And I hadn't seen my father, mind you. Prior to this, my father retired to DR. I hadn't seen my father in years, right? And he was here for like 3 weeks or 2 months, and this was like the third weekend that he was here. So I go over to the piano and I'm like fiddling around. And I start playing, and I'm a big fan of jazz, so I'm playing all this jazz stuff, and like it was like riding a bike. Like I'm all in it. And no lie, 5 minutes in, my father walks over. He goes, "Tócame la que me gusta."
And you're like,
No, he says, play the one I like. He doesn't ask me. He says, "Play the one I like." And I look up at him. It's funny, yo. I've never told the story to nobody. And I close the piano. The piano has these flaps, and I close the piano, and I get up, and I look at my father eye to eye, man to man, and I said, "I will never play for you ever again in my life." And we were saved by the bell, because right there the doctor came out, and he was like, "Oh, Mr. Garcia, we're ready for you." And I was like, "Oh, thank God, we don't have to get into this fucking conversation."
But
So
before we go, can you play that Beethoven song that I like?
Yeah, because
Tócame la mía.
Fuck
Tócame la mía.
Tócame la mía. I was like, no, and we never talked about it. We never. He left it alone.
Okay.
He left it alone. I think he realized.
You said it all.
I think he got it. Yeah.
No, I think that's great, and I think
That's
also the
awesome.
big lesson too. I mean, is like don't allow someone be in control of your gifts. They may have introduced this piano to you. That doesn't mean that you wasn't gonna find it. No, it was just in that moment, that journey, that they was showing you the path what this piano was there for you. And that was a gift that you learned, just like the gift of writing. So don't allow anyone be in control of that. Yeah, in the beginning you're playing for people or whatever, but at the end of the day, this thing and this journey was for you. And I guess you realize that it's like, look, I'm not playing for you anymore. Or I'm not playing for anybody. I want to play what I want to play, and I want to write what I want to write. Yeah. I don't want to. Well, go ahead.
I know. I definitely. That was definitely the lesson that I learned. And about 6 months ago, I bought a piano. Nice. I bought an electrical keyboard. Well, after not having one in my house for long ago, because I realized that I allowed my dad to take something from me that was mine in the first place. Yeah. Right. Exactly. So it wasn't his fault. It was my fault.
Yeah.
For allowing somebody else to do that. And so part of my reclaiming, that part of my art was I bought piano. And some days, I'll be honest with you, some days I'll pull it out and I'll play, and then like I'll leave it out on the stand, and it'll hurt me to see it because of the memories, and I'll put it back away, right? And so I said, okay, well, like I'm house shopping now, and I was like, I'm gonna just buy a fucking piano, and I'm gonna leave it there until I get right. I get right with this shit again.
Great.
Why? It's part of your journey.
Why do you torture yourself so much?
Yeah.
If like even something as small as a piano, you know that your dad's not there anymore. Your dad doesn't have control of it. Why do you still give him some type of power, and why do you torture yourself to do that? I'm just
No,
asking,
some days it gets the best of me, and then some days I'm able to win the battle, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that I wasn't sure if I was doing the work or not, right? Like if I was getting it or not. And I had my grandson over like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I realized that when his father was that age, I would put his father in the car seat right next to the piano, and I would play. I was just like 16, 17-year-old kid, and I would play the piano for him. And my son would just stay there for the 2-3 hours that I would rehearse, just calm. Up, just listening. It was fucking amazing. Oh, yeah, but now my son, all he likes is trap music, so go figure.
When he's older,
so
he'll appreciate it.
Yeah, so I was like, I pulled the piano up for my grandson. it was an epic fail. He likes trap music too. Go figure, the little motherfucker likes Tupac. That's like, you know, he likes Tupac and Two Live Crew, and that's all he likes to listen to. But it's something that I work on, right? Like it's something we all have these things that we have in our lives. Like it seems little, but it's a big part of my trauma, right? And it's shit that I write about that is in my writing that people don't ever realize. There is one thing that I'm trying to deal with now that I'm trying to get over. And I haven't been able to get over it since like 2015. Do you know that this is the motherfucker that beat me in 2015 at the one festival?
Oh, it was you? Oh, it was him that beat you.
I was like, it was bad.
I'm a good storyteller.
You have me. I was like, whoa! I'm gonna bring that motherfucker out right now.
We were on stage together, bitch. Like it was you.
That's right.
Yo, that was dope, man.
Like a broken bachelor, right?
Mm-hmm. That was dope, man. That was a good time.
Yo.
Yeah, and you know,
let me tell you,
one of the people that show love too. Even though you probably had that hate in you, like motherfucker, but you still show love. You know.
Yo, you know what?
I go one even further. When that show got into the HBO Latino festival thing, right? You sent me a dope ass text that I still remember today. You was like, "Yo, congratulations on that. I'm super proud of you, and I'm so happy that a story that you share, also a Latino man, is going further and being shown to more platforms." I was like, "Yo, thank you. You didn't have to do that." And I was like, "Yo, thank you so much for that message, bro."
You know what I saw his show, right? And all I thought about on stage was, oh, fuck it. If I was going to lose to somebody in this motherfucking show, it was going to be him. Because your show was so fucking amazing. And I was just like, for me, this is no secret about me. I'm extremely competitive.
Yeah.
But for me, when it comes to this, like the win, it doesn't matter who it comes from, as long as it comes from one of us.
Yeah.
Right? So it didn't matter to me. Yeah, of course, I mean, in your flesh, right? Like you want to win.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter to me. What I thought was dope was that a dope story won. Right? That it was well written, that it was well executed, that it was well acted, and that it was done by somebody that had the same type of passion that I had. So for me, it was like I won.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you got the love from me that you got, right? Because, when people are salty, they don't do that.
Yeah.
They give you the half-ass, hey, congratulations, they keep it moving.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't do that because I don't feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I saw you win. I was there with you to celebrate that. I felt honored to be there, by your side on the same stage to honor that. I felt proud to come second to another dope-ass Latino man. Like, for me, the win, it didn't matter. Like, it was still us. Like, we still won.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, whether it's me, you, like, we won, right?
Yeah, and
so
that's how I felt in that speech that I said. I was like, yo, we're all winners here because we all wrote something, we all performed it. So at the end of the day, yeah, you're giving me this award and I'm getting a check, but at the end of the day, we all showed Latino stories and performed it. Like, let's look at the bigger picture here. Like, that's fucking dope.
Bro, you know why I sent you that message? Because I had been thinking of doing the same thing with The Broken Bachelor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw you do it and get into the HBO Latino, I said, this motherfucker, I like this nigga, yo. Yo, he think like, you know what I'm saying? We be on the same, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't think, fuck, I wanted to do that. Like, like, that's, like, yo, he did that shit. Like I felt like I was in the HBO Latino. I hit him the minute he posted it. That you just said it. I hit him right in his inbox. I was like, yo, I was so proud because, you know, I had limited myself at that moment. Like I had doubted myself. I was like, I don't know if that could be done. And then he did it. And I was like,
yeah, I went in, honestly, I went into like what do I have to lose? They say no, I'm still gonna do my shit. Like it doesn't matter. And then when I walked into the one festival, I didn't see it as a competition. Honestly, I saw it that I already won within myself. I wrote a show, I got in. Everybody else that's there, I didn't look at it as enemies. I didn't look at it as friends. I'm like, all right, you guys all got shows. I know what I have to do. So when I walked in, it's like, I'm focused. I like had this rocky energy. I was like, this is the big for me, and I'm going to make it. I'm going to go on stage and I'm going to do what I got to do. And everybody else, congratulations. But, you know, I got to focus on that. So whether I got that award or not, the accomplishment of me writing, I won. I was like, man, that's great. I completed a show. I'm happy. I won that. Getting into it to perform it, I'm like, oh, shit, man. I just wanted to perform. That's it. I wanted to explode and I wanted to perform. And everything else came, and I was like, it was blessings. I was like, wow, thank you so much. This is great. Now let me go back to the drawing board because now I want to do more. So, you know, that's how I walk into everything. Like even when I started doing comedy, stand-up, improv, you know, there was great people around me. I never like put myself around them. Like I'll still talk to them to see, I'll feel people energies to see if like, you know, they want to see if you're better than them. I was never into that. I was just like, I'm here to work on my craft. And if you are also a person that's serious, yeah, we could work together and we'll learn from each other. But I'm really there just for me because I want to see how good I can get. If you're already good, that's great. Congrats. I may ask you questions because I want to learn. Yeah. I'm soaking it all up. So don't get mad at me that I'm know everything. All this information. And I'm just doing it for myself. And then I'll do what I got to do and I'm out. I was like, this is really for me. And those are things that I learned eventually. But, you know, but kudos to you, man, because like I said, you know, your show was dope, but also what I love is that your humbleness to still congratulate other people with genuine energy. Not like, hey, man, congrats. You know, it was like, yo, that's fucking dope. It's not because there's not a lot of people like that you meet.
Because that's part of my mission, right? Like it's for us to be there, to be in the space where, and to tell our stories, not to be in the space where we can't get and tell some white man story, like to tell our stories, right? And so for me, and I never said this to you, but I'll say this to you now. When you got into the HBO,
let me raise the volume. I want to hear this.
When you got into the HBO Latino Film Festival, I was inspired because you taught me something, right? And you know, I see a lot, right? Because I research a lot. I look at everybody's shit. People don't even know I be watching everybody. So, you know, the more shit you watch, the less impressed you get, the more desensitized you get.
Yeah.
The more you see that people aren't original, you're like, I just saw that, you know. And for me to have an idea in my head and for one of my peers to immediately go do it, you know, I was like, ooh, I love this fucker. Like, I'm so jealous because I want to be him. Well, I was like, I'm so envious because I want to be him right now. But oh, I'm so fucking proud because I was like, yo, I could if ever I want to do, if ever I decide to take the step, I know that I can.
Yep. Because
Rick fucking did it. That was big for me. That was big for me because it wasn't like somebody that was unreachable, right? Like somebody that's on TV that I'm never gonna meet or that I'm gonna meet in 10 years. Like it was a guy that I already know, a guy that we were in a festival together. Somebody that I admired, somebody that I thought was a dope artist, right? And he did something. He showed me something. He taught me something. He inspired me, and that's why I reached out to you like instantly. You posted it, I saw it, I hit him. I was like, wow, and that was the first feeling that came to me. I was so proud. I was like, oh fuck, and I said, yo, nigga, you could. That was what I said to myself, Rick. Yo, you can do this. Yeah. He did it. You could do it. And that's what I think it's all about, right? That's why I do what I do. So somebody else can say, oh, AR did it. I could do it. You did that for me. Like, you got to tell you, I was like, yo, I could do it. I can do it.
This is great because I feel like, and thank you for that. I'm honored and I'm humbled, brother. And I bow to you because that was beautiful that you sharing that, because it shows that, like, you know, sometimes we're our own enemies of how we can let this ego and pride get in the way to help others.
Yeah.
And we always wonder, oh, why these white people got all this stuff? Well, at the end of the day, they're all working together. And sometimes in the Latino community or in the Black community, we look at each other as enemies or competitors, while we should be friends and genuinely support each other. Not because let me support him because I'm gonna get X, Y, and Z, or let me pretend that I like him so then I could go somewhere. Yeah, you know, so have an opportunity. It should be genuine. We shouldn't look at each other as like these foes. Like, nah, man, yeah, AR is probably better than me in something. One, he's already better than me in piano. One, he's probably better than me in certain, and other things in storytelling. But why can't I ask him questions to like enhance myself? Just like he can ask me questions like, this is how I did it. Maybe it'll work for you. You know what I'm saying? Why we go further when we learn from each other and humbly push each other. You know what I'm saying?
We should be doing that. Right. And I think we get in the way of ourselves, right? Because you know what I and this is so fucking sad to me. What I realize is that nobody was willing to get behind me until I had this whole body of work, right? Which was crazy to me, right? Because from the very beginning, from the first thing that, from the first thing that I've ever done artistically as a writer was have a reading for She Hates Coffee. From that moment, I filled that fucking theater up at La Tea to the point where they had to put chairs up. It went from 75 to 100 seats. It was a reading. Everybody loved it. Then, when it's nowhere as good as it is now, right? And instead of coming to me and being like, yo, let's work together. Let's, you know, let me take you, you know, let me help you. Let me, you know, let's exchange ideas. Very few people did that in our community. Very few people did that. What they did do was, well, you know, you haven't done anything. And it's like you said, they don't do that. Like, Jewish people don't do that. You know, and so now I don't do that. Right? So I'm very honest and open to artists when they come to me, especially when they're new. And I say to them, you know, I'm gonna give you if you're asking for my opinion, I'm gonna give it to you, but know that it comes like we need all honesty. You don't need somebody to sugarcoat your shit. But with that honesty comes, and this is the part that we fail, right? With that honesty comes, all right, listen, this was shit. This is trash. But it's salvageable, right? Like, you can salvage this shit. But you need to do X, Y, and Z, in my opinion. And this is where we lack. In this part, in part B. I'm willing to help you get there. This is the part that we lack.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But we good at being like, nah, bro, that shit was whack.
Yep.
You might want to do something else, right?
Truth. Yep.
Listen, I don't like trap music. I'm not a big fan of like I said, I'm a romantic kind of guy. I fucking like R&B. I like old boleros and shit. Yeah. My son is an artist. He sings trap music and shit. And when he started, he came to me. He was like, Dad, I want to hear this. And I was like, son, this is horrible. This is fucking horrible. And he went, like, he picked up the CD and he went to go watch. I said, where you going? I said, you can't give up. I said, we're going to go to the studio. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to write down everything I think you can do to make this better and work on it.
Yep.
I said, and
That's
the advice, I said, and the advice coming from me is better than somebody that is coming from somebody that likes trap music, because somebody that likes trap music might like all the bullshit, right? But somebody that don't like it, I'm telling you what you need to do to at least catch my ear, for at least for it to be somewhat listenable to me.
Yep.
And that's big.
Mm-hmm.
And he did that. And my son's way of laying down tracks and the way he does shit now is different. Right? Because he took my criticism, and instead of letting that criticism allow him to overtake his feelings and say, fuck it, I don't want to do it anymore, I stopped him. I said, no, there's a second part to this. There's a second part to this. And that's what we need to do in our Latino community. Is say, okay, look, this is good, but it needs X, Y, and Z. If you need help with that, call me. If you need help with that, hit me up. If you need help, hit me up. I get this all the time. Oh, you don't see myself. I'm so much more accessible than people fucking think. Like, if you hit me and I'm down, I'm down. I'm fucking down. Right? But I don't understand, because I'm down to work on everybody's shit. And I don't have to star. I don't have to be a head writer. I don't have to be like, I don't have to, if you need help, I'm down. What you need me to do? You need me to be a grip? I'm down. Like, I'm down.
That's
for
great.
whatever.
That's beautiful.
But we don't do that for each other. And I don't, like, we literally, that's what I think that's what we don't understand about those communities, is that they understand what the actual terminology of one hand washes the other.
Yeah.
We just want people to wash our hands and stop there.
And if you make it somewhere further, don't forget the people that help you, and throw a bone back.
Yeah.
Don't just forget now, because now the world or Hollywood or anybody accept you now, and you feel like they gave you bigger opportunities. But don't forget that the people that were before you helped you to push you to get to that level, to get that opportunity. And what happens, they move further and they just forget. Which is fine, but it just sucks though, because it's like, one for me that never said well with me. Anything that I did that anybody help, I make sure I give back. But it's just, help. Who was it? I think Steve Harvey had this great quote of saying, like, if you have a house on a hill, make sure you tell everybody else in the village how to get a house on the hill too. Don't just be the only person on that house on the hill.
I tell my team all the time, I'm not throwing nobody a bone. Why am I gonna throw you a bone if you with me? You with me?
Mm-hmm. And working
if
hard
I go,
for you too.
Yeah, if I go, we go. I don't gotta throw you a bone because you right here with me.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
You right here with me. We're gonna throw a bone to some motherfuckers we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're gonna throw a bone to a motherfucker we don't know, to somebody that's up and coming. But I'm not throwing a bone to somebody I know, somebody that's working side by side with me, because you're gonna be with me. You're the first person I'm taking care of. You're the first person and that's why the people that are around me we are so loyal to each other, because I'm big on that. Like, we do this. I get up when I do shows. I get up at the end of that show and I thank every single body. At the end, I'm like, yeah, and I just wrote it, and that's the end of it. But I make sure to think it's important.
It is.
It's important because we don't do this shit alone.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
You write it alone. We write it alone, and that's the last time we're alone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's the last time we're alone. That's the last fucking time we're alone. After that, I can't do I would be lying if I said that all of my productions was me. Shit, I'm such a fucking wreck, bro. Especially if I have to perform, I can't do nothing. I can't do shit. I become I don't know about you, Rick, but I'm shambles, bro.
Yeah, I learned how to.
I'm
I had to.
straight
My
shambles.
spiritual teacher taught me. I had to learn to like relax myself or not to be in charge of a lot of things the day of because I gotta.
Yeah, you got.
You have to be
Yeah,
focused.
Yeah, gotta be in a place to like, like be positive, be zen. I put on my little jazz
Focus.
music. I can get ready. You know what I'm saying, and making sure that I'm not involved in a lot of things because any little thing you realize you don't think it is, but any little thing that you're doing can affect your performance. And, you know, especially
absolutely.
especially your dad won't. It's like we're on our period because any little thing we're so sensitive. So any little thing can affect us, and we don't. You know, we had to learn that, of course. But like that's why we had to just chill and not whoever you hired, let them handle everything.
Yep, trust.
Yo, I'm so grateful for my team. We be at productions, bro, and if I'm a micromanager, motherfucker. Like I be wanting to see what everybody's doing, right? Yo, my fucking production assistants be like, "What are you doing here? Get out! You should be out there shaking hands, kissing." That's always my saying: shaking hands, kissing babies. You should be out there shaking hands and kissing babies. What you got to do? You ain't performing in this motherfucker. It's been written, and your directing job is over. What are you doing back here? Go out there, have a drink, and go enjoy yourself. Get out. Because if not, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And don't let you be performing.
Mm-hmm.
Forget it. Don't let you be performing. I be in shambles. You have to have people around you that you trust, and you have to have people around you that know and respect the work, and that believe in your vision just as much as you do. I sometimes feel like they believe in the fucking vision more than I do, because I still doubt myself. You know, as an artist,
Yeah.
that's your cross, right?
Yeah,
like
we're
you're
always fighting that
critic.
person.
You're always fighting, and they stay there, and they're loyal, and they see it, right? And as a man, as an artist, I have my moments. I wake up, and I'm like, I can't tell you how many times I wake up, and I'm like, "The fuck are you doing? You wildin'." Like you are wilding right now. But that's not for us to judge, because we don't know who we are touching, who we are bringing these experiences to, and what that's doing in their lives. I will say, Rick, and I'm sure that you can relate to this. The greatest reward is seeing how people relate to your work, and how it touches their lives, and how, that is the most meaningful. Next to being a father, it is the most meaningful fucking feeling I've ever had in my life.
Yep.
Like to be honest with you, the most meaningful, and it was at the Puerto Rican Traveling Theater. It was one of the nights that we both were performing, and I was doing The Broken Bachelor, and I'm outside, and you shaking hands and kissing babies, talking to people and taking pictures, and this woman comes up to me, and she says, "I broke up with my fiance 3 months ago, and after watching your show, I have to call him." And I was like, why do you have to call him? She said, "Because I never asked him or even cared about how he was feeling. I never thought to even think that you men care so deeply, or I never even thought that a man could be broken like I was broken. I never heard his side of things. I was too busy just telling him how I felt. And I just realized watching your show, and she goes, I was crying watching your show because I never thought that I could be so callous about a man that I loved so dearly. And I was like, wow. And if that wasn't enough, 2 weeks later, she inboxes me on Facebook. And she says, we're getting married again.
And we want you to play piano, Beethoven.
I was like, nah, fuck that. But to me, that was the most powerful thing that I had ever experienced, right? Because of something that I wrote, someone else, these two people were able to see life in a different way.
That's beautiful.
And I was like, there's power in what we do. There's real fucking power in what we do, Rick. Right? And the most humbling part is that it's not for us. Although it seems like that, right? It seems therapeutic. It seems it's not for us. What we do is what we're called, guys like you and I that write, we're called to fucking serve. We're called to serve. Serve humanity, serve these souls, serve these people that are hurting. We serve a purpose to connect with people on a level that nobody else can. Why we were chosen? I don't know, because we don't deserve it. I don't know about you, but I know that I don't, right? Because I know that I'm an extremely flawed individual. But this gift is a gift to serve. It's not for me. And that to me was like the most powerful fucking thing. And it forced me to change, it forced the start of changing my life.
I think it serves you in the beginning though. Well, here's why.
Absolutely.
Here's why. Because we're not able to inspire change in others if we can inspire change in ourselves first. Because if we're faking it, right, then what you got in that DM, in that message, and outside and then in that DM would not have be the same if you just did it for like everybody else. Because it came from a place for you first, and then getting off. Right. And then all of a sudden,
that's how it starts.
And then it takes its course, and then now it serves you, and then like you said, it serves another purpose now. It serves others.
Yeah.
It's a puddle.
Yeah, it's like a puddle.
You throw the paddle.
It keeps serving.
With anything that you're trying to master, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
With anything that you're trying to master, you start with you.
Yep.
With you, right?
Then it becomes something else for others.
Then it becomes greater than you.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then you have to accept that it becomes greater than you. And you have and then you have to let go.
Yeah.
You have to learn to let go and realize that so I had to realize that this thing saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If it was able to save my life, it's able to save somebody else's.
Yep.
That's too valuable for you to keep to yourself.
You are now checking out
The Win Podcast,
where the everyday people
are the celebrities.
So let's get to know them.